Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, January 25th, and we are on day 5 of Module 3 in Wit and Wisdom. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Everybody stayed healthy. I did a lot of sleeping. I was feeling better last Thursday and Friday, but something happened over the weekend. I started feeling bad again. So, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. Make sure you have your knowledge and response journal ready because we're going to work on our response, our writing today, and we started working on it on Friday. Make sure you have that ready. I feel like I'm not sharing my screen for some reason. There we go.
Welcome back, powerful thinkers. I'm Sue Sabella, your Great Minds teacher. Let's see what we need for today. Today we'll need Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, handout 4B, the evidence organizer that we completed last time, handout 5A, which are lyrics to Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around, your Wit and Wisdom journal, and a pencil. Please pause here to gather what you need and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so remember our evidence organizer, we wrote it in our journal. So once you have your journal, you will have your evidence organizer, and you do not need a copy of the lyrics right now.
Reading and writing are very important skills to have and to practice. There are additional skills that are just as important, and one of those skills is listening. Listening is a very important skill to have and to practice. And today we're going to be using those listening skills as we listen to a song of protest. I'd like you to pause here to take a look at the 3 questions on the screen. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so we have, why is listening for the main topic important? How does listening for main topic work? And how do I use multiple sources for focusing question task 1?
You probably noticed as you were looking at the questions closely that the questions begin with 2 of my favorite question starters, why and how. Our first question is, why is listening for the main topic important? As we're listening to a song today, we're going to think about why listening for the main topic is important. Also, we're going to take a look at how does listening for the main topic work. It's different from reading to determine a main topic, and we're going to think about how it's different. And lastly, how do I use multiple sources for focusing question task 1? Another how question. Using multiple sources is a bit different from what you used to doing. So we're also going to think about how is that different. Are you ready? Here we go. We're going to listen to a song, and that song is titled Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around. And it was first sung as a spiritual song, but when it was introduced to protesters during the civil rights movement, it quickly became a well-known protest song. As you listen to the song, I invite you to think about the main topic of the song. As a listener, there's things that you can cue into or focus on as you're listening, and that will help you determine or figure out the main idea. You can listen for words or phrases that are repeated, or perhaps a question that's being asked and answered. Get ready to listen for repeated words and phrases.
Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching to that freedom land. Ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching to that freedom land. Ain't gonna let Jim Crow turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let Jim Crow turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching to that freedom land. Ain't gonna let Bull Connor, Lord, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let Bull Connor, Lordy, turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching to that freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching to that freedom land.
What were some of the words or phrases that were repeated throughout the song? Pause here to tell a learning partner or jot down those words and phrases in your journal. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Here are the lyrics to the song that was just sung by Stephen Griffith. This song was a protest song that was also sung at the March on Washington. As we listened to Stephen Griffith perform the song, we listened for words and phrases that were repeated. Now I'd like you to look closely at the first two verses in this song. I want you to look for words and phrases that are repeated. As you find those repeated words and phrases, I want you to think about this question. What is the big idea in this song? What is the main topic? Pause here to locate the repeated words and phrases and to think. Think, what is the big idea in this song? Just hit play when you're ready to continue. You probably noticed that the last two lines in each verse are exactly the same. And if you close your eyes while I read those two lines, I want you to picture what people would look like. Ready? Here we go. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching to that freedom land. I bet you picture people walking and talking, and they're marching. They're moving together as a group, and that is a protest. Pause here to continue to look for words that are the same as you read the remaining verses. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Now that you've had a chance to look closely at the repeated words and phrases And to even close your eyes to visualize what the group looks like. What is the big idea in this song? Stop and jot that idea down in your journal, and you can even label it as the main topic. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so in your journal on page 106, you're going to put today's date on the top, 125, and then I want you to write, stop and jot about the main topic of the song. And what I want you to do is write a sentence or two and tell me what you think the main idea of that song was. What was the main point or the important point of that song? On page 106.
Pause here to take a stretch break and just hit play when you're ready to continue. Pause here to grab handout 4B, the evidence organizer. If you completed or made an evidence organizer in your journal, please grab your journal and turn to that page now. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, remember we did this on page 104 and 105 in your journal. So just flip backwards one page and you will be on our evidence organizer.
You'll be using your evidence organizer to complete the focusing question task that responds to this focusing question. What were the injustices people faced before the Civil Rights Act of 1964? You collected evidence from two sources. You collected evidence with me from the book, and also you collected evidence with your classroom teacher from the video. Now that you have your evidence, you can use your evidence to draft a topic statement that responds to the question, an introduction that sets the table for the paragraph, and also a conclusion that reminds the reader about the main topic of your paragraph. Once you have all of that information in your evidence organizer, you can rehearse or practice your paragraph out loud. Please pause here to work to complete your evidence organizer if it's not already completed. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so let's talk about the introduction first, okay? So the focusing question task is, what were the injustices people faced before the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Well, if you are not someone taking this class, or you are not someone who has already learned about the Civil Rights Act of 1964, your first question is probably going to be, what are injustices? If you don't know what those are you going to be able to understand anything that's in your written paragraph? Probably not. So for our introduction, we need to explain what an injustice is. So what is an injustice, guys? So an injustice is when people are not being treated fairly or equally as everyone else should be. So we need to make that our introduction. An injustice is when someone is not treated how all people should be. So that is a great introduction because it explains what an injustice is, which is a big part of the question. And if someone who's reading your paragraph does not understand what an injustice is, they are not going to be able to understand the whole paragraph. So make sure that you have the introduction written down. Okay. So when we did our chart on Friday, we talked about how Black people couldn't eat in many restaurants. They couldn't sit in the same places in movie theaters. They had to use different doors. They had to use different water fountains. They had to sit in the back of the public buses. Um, they had to go to different schools. They didn't have as good of schools. So there were many, many injustices that we talked about just on Friday. And that wasn't even all of them. That was just a few. So our topic statement needs to talk about the injustices. So we can make a simple topic statement and talk about how there are many injustices before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So that needs to be your topic statement. Tell me that there were many injustices before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So there were many injustices before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So now we have our introduction statement and our topic statement. So now we're going to do our conclusion. And remember, the conclusion is just the topic statement reworded. Okay? So the topic statement, there were many injustices before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And then we're going to talk about all of these things. And so then our conclusion, how could you reword that part? It would be easy to just say many injustices happened before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. My marker's running out of ink. So there is our conclusion. Many injustices happened before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So please make sure that you have the introduction, the topic statement, and the conclusion. And then our evidence organizer will be completed. And then we can start working on practicing saying out loud your paragraph. Okay, so remember, you are going to practice this today. Okay, you're going to make sure you start with your introduction, your topic statement. You're going to talk about your evidence and your conclusion. So here is an example. Okay. An injustice is when someone is not treated how all people should be. There were many injustices before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Black people could not eat in many of the restaurants. Black children had to go to different schools than white children. On public buses, they had to sit in the very back, in the back seats. And Black people had to use different water fountains from white people. Many injustices happened before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, so I want you to practice your paragraph the way that you're going to write it. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go back to the video.
Now that you've had a chance to complete your evidence organizer and to rehearse your paragraph, it's time to write your informative paragraph. Let's take a close look at the directions before you begin. What were the injustices people faced before the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Write an informative paragraph using evidence from 2 sources. Support your response using evidence from the following sources: Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, and the video, The Man Who Changed America. And don't forget, your checklist for success is there. The checklist is there to remind you of what to include in your paragraph. You'll begin with an introduction and then add your topic statement. You'll also include one piece of evidence from the book, Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, and one piece of evidence from the video, The Man Who Changed America. And finally, you'll write a conclusion for your paragraph. Please pause here to read task 1 to yourself before writing, and then write your informative paragraph. Just hit play when you're ready to wrap up our video lesson.
Okay, so this is going to be a little difficult because I don't have a document camera here at home. So we're going to be on page 107 now. 107, and I'm going to model how to do the focusing question task, okay? So first thing that we're going to do across the top of the page is write focusing question task for B. Okay, focusing question task 4B. And then we're going to write the question underneath it. What were the injustices people faced before the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Okay, now we have our question. What were the injustices people faced before the Civil Rights Act of 1964? So now what I can do, I can go back to page 104, 105, where we were just practicing reading our paragraph out loud. And I can start writing what I want to say. First thing I need to write is my introduction. An injustice is when someone is not treated how all people should be. Okay, so here is my introduction. And because it's my introduction, I need to underline it in red. So there's my introduction. What comes after the introduction, guys? The topic statement. So I need to go back to page 104 and look at my topic statement. There were many injustices before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So that's what I'm going to write next. Okay, so now I have my topic statement. There were many injustices before the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and because it's my topic statement, I'm going to underline it in green. So I have my introduction, and now I have my topic statement. And now I need to go back to my evidence organizer. And now I'm going to talk about my evidence. Okay. I'm going to talk about how they could not eat in many restaurants. So I need to say, in the book, I need to list the name of the book. Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. I learned that Black people were not allowed to eat in many restaurants. Okay. Also, in the book, I learned that they had to sit in the back seats of the bus and they had to use different water fountains. But those are things that we also learned in the video too. So let's talk about, I wrote about how they couldn't eat in restaurants, but in the video I learned that the children had to go to different schools. So let's talk about that. And then we can talk about these things together because these all were the same in both the book and the video. Okay, so I need to say something about, in the video, The Man Who Changed America. You always need to make sure you list your sources, okay? Okay, in the video, The Man That Changed America, I learned that Black children had to go to different schools from white children. Okay, now that is my first piece of evidence. Yellow. So all of that needs to be underlined in yellow. And remember, guys, this is my story. I don't expect you to copy it. You need to use your own evidence, write your own story. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the chart, and both pieces of evidence for the book and the video talks about the bus. Both pieces of evidence for the book and the video for number 3 talk about water fountains. So now this time, instead of saying the separate name of the book and a separate name of the video, I can just say in both the book and the video. So in both the book and the video, I learned that Black people had to sit in seats in the back of the bus. Also, Black people had to use, turn to page 108, had to use separate and what's a word to describe water fountains, guys? I'm going to use a big word, inferior. That means they're not as good. Okay, so I wrote, in both the book and the video, I learned that Black people had to sit in seats in the back of the bus. Also, Black people had to use separate and inferior water fountains. So I'm going to get my blue. I'm going to underline in blue my second piece of evidence, which is about the seats in the bus. And then my third piece of evidence, I'm going to go back to yellow. We do yellow, blue, yellow. This is the part about the water fountain. We'll have to use separate and inferior water fountains. Okay. That's what I've got so far. Now, if I go back to page 104 and 105 and I look at my chart, I've done my introduction, I've done my topic statement, I've done 3 pieces of evidence, and now it's time for my conclusion. Many injustices happened before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So that's what I'm going to write as my conclusion. Many injustices happened before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And it is my conclusion, which matches the topic statement, which we are going to highlight in green, or underline in green, not highlight. Okay, so I used page 107 and 108 to do my writing. If you do not use page 108, please just put a big X over it. Okay, so here is my writing that I modeled for you how to write using the chart on page 104 and 105. So please make sure that you do your own writing. Please don't just copy what I wrote, okay? And we're going to go back to the video.
Historians use different kinds of texts and often many texts to better understand historical events. By using more than one source, you were behaving just like an historian. You have so much knowledge that you can share with others. So get busy sharing that knowledge, and I will see you again very soon.
All right, guys. So that is the end of today's lesson. It was a little long because it was a writing lesson today, but please make sure that you do your writing activity. You're going to post a picture of it in your Google Classroom assignment. And guys, listen, let me show you something. Can you read this? If I took a picture of this, could you read it? No, I can't either. When you're taking your picture, please hold your journal as close to the camera as you can, okay? I need to be able to read it. And if you're holding it way back here, I can't read it, guys. Please make sure that your camera is not blurry so that I can read what the words say, okay? Thank you. All right, so let's see. Today's magic word, I haven't been doing those lately. I haven't been feeling like it and I forgot. Let's say today's magic word is, let's go with lion. I'm surrounded by lions. Here's a lion. There's a lion over there. I got a lion behind my back. He's my pillow. So today's magic word is lion. Okay. All right, guys. I'll see you later for phonics. Bye.